Welcome, y'all, to the Berto Be Thinking podcast, where we explore and unpack ideas on faith, health, and social justice. Today, we're doing things a little bit differently. We're actually in a podcast recording studio. We're here with Metro Podcast, and we're switching it up, We're switching it up, making things different. So before we begin, I want to just lay out a little disclaimer. Give me a second. So first and foremost, I am not a professor. I am not an economist, nor am I a government official. My words should not be taken as gospel. These are simply my thoughts and opinions. Ultimately, I want y'all to think for yourselves. Some days we will have solutions to the problems we talk about, and other times we will not, and that's okay. So without further ado, let's begin. I want to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine. This guy, we went to class together. We finished our master's degree together. My man, Dexter Phillips. How are you, bro?
I'm good. I'm great, actually. So, I know you had a lovely intro, but I want to say a special intro to you today.
All right.
Come on, man. Come on. I have to support you, right? So, you mentioned that, you're not a government official and your words shouldn't be taken as bond. But I got to let people know that this guy here has been, such an influence to me, as well as, while we were at school, he helped me through a lot, and he graduated with his master's in public health.
Let's go.
Right? And is currently working in the field. So
yes,
while Berto Be Thinking, he also be knowing a little bit.
Come on, right? tell the people.
So I'm really happy to be here.
Yo, man, thank you so much. Honestly, I think sometimes we forget how far we've come, man. Because me and you, we was out here studying in these streets or in these classrooms, studying, trying to pass all our exams, writing papers every week.
It was a rough ride.
So yeah, man. So I mean, honestly, thank you for the intro. It's a great segue into what we finna be talking about today. I know the past 2 episodes we've been talking about government. We've been talking about how the government has played a role in people's lives, but today I want to switch it up a little bit. And which is why I brought you. You are another public health official as well. We both got our degree in public health. And I just wanted to talk about just the coronavirus. I wanted to talk about just how things have been going, how things were before, what we've learned, and just explore that topic, So that's kind of sort of what I want to touch upon today. You have any thoughts, Dexter?
Well, as we've all experienced over, I guess, it's going on, 8-9 months now of this
coronavirus. Man, might as well be a year.
I'm saying, right? So it's been a lot for all of us to deal with. And even as professionals in the public health space, we also it was new to all of us as well to navigate. So yes, we studied for it and, we had, some knowledge of how to go about this, but as with everyone else, it was very new. It was very, devastating. Personal story here. I myself actually had COVID very early. Yeah, I'm sharing. I'm probably oversharing at this point, but
HIPAA.
That was back in March at the beginning of the whole lockdown situation, and that affected me on so many different levels, from thinking of it on a personal level of, oh my God, am I going to survive this thing? Also, the people that are around me, the community, how is it, what is happening, so it was a lot to take in. And still 9 months later, or 8 months later, we're still dealing with this.
Still here.
We're still here. We're still wearing masks in a studio, speaking, try to, make some sense of it all.
Yeah. No, that's so real, man. And I think the crazy thing is, we had literally just graduated, right? Mm-hmm. We had literally just left school. Well, we didn't graduate. When COVID had hit, we were called away from school, back home. still studying, still doing stuff for our classes, while all of this stuff is going on around us. You know what I'm saying? And all the things that we've learned in class, we're clearly seeing happening all throughout cities all over the world. So honestly, none of us were prepared for COVID, but honestly, we came out, I guess, equipped because we seen it in real time. You know, we're seeing the things that we learned about happening in real time. And I really like how you described how COVID has impacted you on many different levels, right? How it's impacted you personally, how it's impacted your interpersonal relationships, how it's impacted your role within the community, you know, and so on and so forth. COVID has really taken a huge control of a lot of people's lives, man. And I think that while things have felt a little bit more, I guess, normal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for a little bit of time, we had some sort of freedom.
I think we've been getting accustomed. I think that's probably what's happening because earlier on, it's like wear a mask. It was hard, but now it becomes part of your everyday life. Like you know, oh, my mask, you forgot it.
Right, man. I literally just did that.
Did that, you know, before we came here, and it's really a situation that it's becoming normal to us. In a lot of sense, you know. So it, as I said, it affects so many different levels. Right. But in the community, for example, taking public transportation. You know, it's still kind of trying to be like, yo, stay 6 feet apart and stuff like that. But really and truly, is that feasible in a city like New York? That's what I'm saying. Like and the wearing of the mask is definitely happening still, which is great, you know, for the most part. But while some stuff has become normal, a lot of other stuff is, you know, still a lot of resistance to it. You know?
Well, expound upon that. Like, what do you mean by that?
So, like, the resistance, as I just mentioned, like the public transportation situation, it's hard to be able to do 6 feet apart when thousands of people have to get to work. Right. How much? Maybe more than 1,000. You know, but probably have to get to work and take this train or take this bus. And I myself, I don't have a car, so when I get on public transportation, you know, there's people right next to you. So then people are up in arms, like, you know, why are we doing this? You know, why are we doing these control measures? But if it's anything that we've learned, is that you can't have just one control measure for a situation like this. So in school, like, even though it wasn't COVID we were learning for, you know, but all the other communicable diseases and stuff like that we may or non-communicable that we may be dealing with, you have to have more than one control measure to adequately deal with it. And that's what's been happening. So the masks, the staying 6 feet apart, the washing of the hands. Oh my goodness. Can I speak about washing of the hands?
Hey, talk about it. Some of y'all dirty out here.
So, yo, so I had a story with that. So at the beginning of the pandemic, right? Not at the pandemic, sorry. Close to the lockdown of New York. I guess that would have been in March exactly. And I went to the gym. This was just before the gym closed. They finally closed the gym. I probably shouldn't have gone to the gym, seeing as the gym is usually a hotbed for
people like y'all. Shaking my head.
But I went to the gym, right? Went to the gym, finished, had to use the bathroom. To heading out, right? Now, at this time, even though the city wasn't completely locked down, they had locked down the following week. There was a lot of guidelines and, you know, telling you, wash your hands, do these types of things that was already going on because, I mean, the coronavirus had already affected the rest of the world.
Right.
But we were in the gym and I went to use the urinal. The usual thing, you know, a guy, right? Now, there was another older guy, he at least in his 50s, comes to the urinal right next to me. Now, why did he do that in the first place? As a guy, you know what I'm talking about, right?
You got mad other stalls.
Exactly, right?
6 feet.
Unnecessary, right?
Shaking my head.
So this guy used the urinal. Made a about turn and out the door.
Ooh.
And I am there shocked and in awe of this, because I'm washing my hands
Yeah.
at the sink, and he just on about turn, and I'm like, it's not serious.
Coronavirus.
Because like that is just naturally, you have to be hygienic, right?
Yeah.
But in this situation that we were in, where, pandemics and everything was happening, like, you should want to wash your hands.
Right.
And this is not a young child or something like that. It's a grown man. So, that behavior has been happening throughout his life. So you could imagine how hard it is for them to wash their hands now when you ask them to.
Yeah, because honestly, if you were raised not washing your hands after using the bathroom, you're not going to think twice about not washing your hands. And I think that what you said brings up a really good point, man, is how our environments contribute to the way that we react to different health measures. So, for example, this is obviously, a hypothetical, but let's say that this man, he didn't wash his hands, but let's say that like it was a cultural thing, right? Let's say culturally speaking, like it's not appropriate to wash your hands after using the bathroom. I don't know what culture would obviously do something like that, but let's say that's the case, right? Okay. And this man was just raised to not wash his hands, and he just going about, doing his thing, and he's not educated on the proper hygiene, right? That could lead him to certain adverse health effects, right?
Oh, most definitely.
Lead him to being prone to certain health effects because he doesn't understand the importance of washing your hands, right? So the reason why I laid that out, man, is also because if we take a look at the different communities that we see.
Speak on it.
Hey,
let's see.
Hey, if we look at the different communities around us, and how they're being trained and how they're being equipped to handle the coronavirus, right? We obviously see a vast different array of methods, but. Right. So we have people in rural communities who are saying, okay, we can't wear a mask. We have in those places, there's lesser restrictions. Right. So people are going out. They can go out without wearing their masks. They're not staying 6 feet apart. And they're just not caring about the coronavirus. Right. And the lack of education, the lack of reinforcement is causing them to become a public health
risk.
Of risk, right, exactly.
So if you look at, we could speak about the cultures.
Yeah.
And I, for example, I'm from a different culture.
Yeah.
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, sir. We see the flag on your mask.
Okay, come on now. Come on.
You better rap.
Trinity to the bone, right?
Come on now.
So, I grew up in a different culture as to what I'm in right now, or what I'm part of right now. So we learn things, slightly differently. Not that it's drastic, but, for example, healthcare is a right in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah. Right? Like, we have free healthcare.
Okay.
So if something happens
Lucky.
to you, a little bit, a little bit. So if something happens to you, you could go to the hospital and they'll fix you up and send you on your way. Right? So that fear of going to the hospital is not there for me. Like, I want to do that. Like, if something happens to me, my first inclination will be, hey, let me go to the doctor and see what's wrong. However, in the US of A, right, we know healthcare is more of a commodity, and insurance is such a big impact. So there's a lot of people out there that don't have insurance that would be afraid to go to the hospital even when they are sick because they can't afford it. They really can't afford it. And then maybe their status may not be secured, and it's a fear. So you had a lot of people out there that potentially had it or was spreading it and didn't even want to go to the doctor because of that fear of what could happen to them. And then we know how the healthcare system hasn't always been fair to all parties. So that's a whole nother conversation on its own. But just speaking particularly to COVID, a lot of cultures that accustom having large gatherings, for example. I mean, most cultures do that, right? But these large gatherings where you're not wearing masks, where you're not taking the proper precautions, increases the risk.
Exactly.
And here we are, right?
Yeah.
Where, cases are going back up in New York after this feeling of comfort, I guess, that we're getting accustomed to. Cases are going up, and we have to, stay vigilant in doing what we have to do, because even though culturally it may not be the norm for you, you have to, understand that there's a pandemic happening, that things need to change, forcing us to change in a lot of the aspects. So how are you going to now communicate that to them, that they understand and that they learn and that they take that in?
And I think one thing that I can clearly think about is something that we learned, like in class, is like the health belief model, where they kind of sort of talk about how you remember it.
Oh God, your professors will not be proud.
I close up, but it pretty much what it talks about is how our knowledge of a particular matter is influenced, or our motivation to go and conduct some type of public health
how we feel.
Behavior change is determined by how we feel about the particular risk. Or our perception of how we can overcome that particular risk, right? I'm not going into the nitty-gritty details about what all the things are, but like even one thing, for example, is like self-efficacy, right? Is that the right word?
Yes, that's
right. Self-efficacy.
You teaching a class here today. Come
man, on. I'm trying to pull things from my brain.
You just graduated, sir. Come
on. But self-efficacy, I think, isn't that like your
belief in how you could overcome it?
Yes, there you go. There you go. Honestly, your belief in the health measure, like you thinking that you're able to accomplish it. So, for example, if somebody says that, for example, somebody who may be obese may want to work out, right? And they may want to try to lose the weight. But then self-efficacy comes into play, and they may think to themselves, okay, am I able, right? Am I able to lose the weight? Am I able to get in the gym? When I look at these weights, can I pick it up, right? When I do these reps, am I able to get it done? So that level of self-efficacy is what's going to make him want to go and work out, right? So if he believes that he's able to do it, he can go and get it done. He can get in the gym, bust out those reps, right? He's going to have a more of an inclination to want to make that change, right? But if he feels like, oh man, I'm weak, I ain't got no stamina, I can't do this, then he's going to be less likely to go out and do that.
Right.
So when tying that into COVID, right? Bro, you got it, man. Hold up.
How do people feel about it?
Right,
Is
exactly.
the most important question. So,
are you taking it seriously, right? Do you see it as an actual risk, right? And that's one thing that we speak about too within the health belief model, I think, is perceived risk, perceived susceptibility, like can I get it? People are hearing that, okay, only people who are older, who have pre-existing conditions, right? They think that only those people can get it, right? So this is not a risk for me. This is not a threat for me, right? So I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to go to Atlanta. I'm going to get my brunch, I'm going to have a good time.
Miami.
Or Miami. Or, a lot of people going down to Puerto Rico,
I'm saying.
enjoying themselves, living their best life.
Have a lot of fun.
So these are the things that come to mind when we think about, okay, whether or not people are going to take the proper precautions for COVID.
So let's bring it back to both of us. For example, we are both young.
Hey, don't put me on the spot. Okay,
man. Come on, man. You're on the spot right now.
Let's do a red table talk.
Right? Oh my goodness, no, brown. So we're both young, professional, and we want to go out.
Right.
We want to have fun.
Yeah, man.
We want to do things. You want to go, see.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do hood rat things.
Yeah,
with my friends,
exactly, right? But you also have the knowledge of, this is not the best thing to do.
Yeah.
This is not going to help us and the city as a whole by us gathering like this and having fun and doing all those kinds of stuff. So you're almost caught in like a little web of, do I enjoy myself or do I, stick to the letter of the law?
Right.
And I ain't gonna put you on the spot to ask you if you
Yeah,
have been
don't
anywhere.
tell nobody.
Because I think I heard you've been out in these streets. But anyhow, that's besides the point, right?
Quiet, man. The feds is watching.
Right. But it's so interesting that I've spoken to a lot of other young people too about it, because I'm not here to say, oh, I'm a public health professional, I know what to do. Like, as I mentioned before, like, all of us have been learning.
Yeah.
All of us are trying to, grasp this and how to manage our lives, to live through a pandemic and study it at the same time. That's what we're doing. We're living through the pandemic and studying it.
Yeah, all of us.
All of us.
It's not only us as
most
public health
definitely.
professionals, but we're all learning about it.
Right.
And I think that what makes it even more difficult for people to like comprehend this is the first time in a long time where the world has not understood a disease.
Of course.
Right? People are like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, we've been so advanced in technology.
Have you lived through a pandemic before?
I ain't never lived through no damn pandemic.
I don't think any of us have lived through.
You know what I'm saying? So it's all a learning process for all of us. And I think that we have to work together, right? That's the biggest thing, is we have to work together so that we can combat this disease.
So learning about it, right? I spoke to a couple of co-workers and just other young people, because I want to find out like what's the real pulse of it, because you can't look online, because online is just straight trash,
nonsense,
right? But so I was like, look, let me speak to people in person, to hear how they feel about it. Do you really believe it's a hoax? Like, you ask these types of questions, and it's interesting because so many of the persons that I spoke to, they believe, but they have so many questions that at this point they're lost. You understand what I'm saying? Like they don't even know what to believe. So the professional answer to that, everyone, is to follow the requirements of the CDC and the World Health Organization are probably the two most reputable sources when you're looking for your information, right? However, speaking to them, you could hear so many misconceptions and so many, issues because they're getting information. Worst when they had the whole political party stuff, like, we know how many false information could come out like that. But just the learning of it, because as you mentioned, the CDC and the World Health Organization, those scientists and researchers are learning as well. So that's why we had so many changes over the months of, this is what happens. That's what happens. Like, how many months ago did loss of smell and taste become a symptom? Before that wasn't known.
Right.
So we kind of have to give it not just give it time, but be open enough to understand.
Be open and flexible.
Right. That things are evolving. And they may not always get it right. Okay. They may not always, but they pretty much do a lot of the times. And it's about protecting human life. That is the most important part. They're not trying to eradicate the people. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to go in a bunker and hide out and stuff like that. But it's a learning process, and we're all trying to learn.
It's a learning process, and it's a collaborative effort. Like, we all play a role in all of this. The scientists are doing their part in doing research and in trying to come up with a vaccine.
Oh boy!
Oh boy! So they doing their thing over there. We have government officials. Some of them. Let's say some. We ain't gonna name them out. But some of them are taking measures to combat COVID-19, right? And then while those people are doing their thing, even within our own communities, our jobs, our workplaces are creating protocols and policies to be able to take care of COVID. And then on a personal level, we also have to go about and do our part, right? If one of these, right, wash your hand, stay 6 feet apart, give a little push, a nudge if you have to, wear your mask, and other health precautions that we should take. One thing that people don't talk about as well, I'm gonna say it,
let me hear you.
is also think about lifestyle changes too. We talk about one method of prevention is obviously wearing a mask. Another method of prevention is obviously washing your hands. But let's also think about our lifestyle changes. Let's think about increasing our immunity, like increasing our taking our vitamins, right? Changing our diet, right? Because those are the things that obviously make you more at risk to have a more fatal interaction with COVID, right? We talk a lot about wearing the mask. We talk a lot about washing your hands, but we also have to talk about like actual lifestyle changes. And I think it's difficult during COVID because people are stuck at home, right? So that makes you more depressed. That makes you more sad, which then makes you want to overeat. Some of the gyms are closed, which makes it hard for people to go out and work out.
People are laid off from their jobs.
People are laid off from the job, so they're
afford to get to go to the gyms or to buy the healthy food. Because so, if I would speak for those that I guess might be in a similar situation, like as myself, when I graduated, before I got a job, I was in a weird space. As in, I'm an international student.
Oh yes,
right. And I don't have insurance because the school insurance is up. I don't have a job, so I don't have a job insurance. And I'm not bringing in any money because I have to wait on the job to be able to buy. So, like, what kind of foods was I able to buy? What was I able to do for my health within that space? So it was a rough time. I'll be honest. It was a tough time to navigate. I can imagine, man. And this is throughout the pandemic. So you want to be able to do those things. And I mean, this could go into so many different aspects of public health. For example, you mentioned about the obesity and nutrition and dietary change and things like that. Like, we as a community, we need that. Because we know, and if I want to get into some statistics for you guys, like the Hispanic and the Black population, suffer disproportionately from obesity. Right now, why is that? It's not just because we make good food. I mean, that might be part of it. Speaking from as a Caribbean person myself, the food is good. But we also have to understand the environment that we are in. And what we have to deal with that gets us to that point. So, I mean, all of this could go into many directions, but COVID affects all of that stuff. Because those people with those underlying conditions, it's not going to happen right away with the proper figures, but 2-3 years from now, public health professionals are going to be researching and conducting research on this pandemic that we have gone through, and seeing why did these people die, how many people died because they had asthma, how many people died because they had respiratory illnesses, how many people died because they had high blood pressure, etc., diabetes, etc., and you're going to see how it affected these types of communities. So from a health standpoint and also from a demographic standpoint, COVID has had a drastic effect on, the underserved populations, if you put it like that.
No, for real, man. For real. And it's honestly like a top-down approach, where everything comes from the top and kind of sort of trickles down. And I think it's a very intentional thing that we started off the Berto Be Thinking podcast talking about the government, talking about how it influences, how it should be a father figure to its people, because that's where it starts off, right? If our government isn't taking its roles and its measures to secure our health, then it makes it a problem for everybody else. And then it makes it a problem for those who are the most underserved and those who are the most marginalized. So we really have to... And it's not to say that that's the only approach that's taken, right? So there are multiple measures where we can make a difference in terms of the coronavirus. But one thing that we have to keep in mind is that that's something that's really important is policy, right?
Oh, most definitely, because the policies, they govern a lot about what we do, how we act, how we behave. And now I'm not American, so nobody call me a communist or anything crazy like that. But we speak about things like in our class. You know how many times I always wanted to say the answer was free healthcare?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know how many times I said that, right?
That's literally the answer to
like,
everything in public health.
I'm like, look, free healthcare.
Right,
Oh, this is a problem. Free healthcare.
right.
But I get it. It's not that simple,
Yeah.
especially over here. You know, things are,
Yeah,
you know, a little
because
different.
we talked about it. We're dealing with culture. We're dealing with
Exactly.
ideals. We're dealing with people who think differently than other people.
Much
you know what I'm
different,
saying?
you know?
Like, it's very much possible for something like that to probably take place in a place like Trinidad and
Right,
Tobago. Look at your history.
Right.
It's very easy to do that. And even the mentality, right?
mentality,
In your nation is one of unity, right?
Yeah.
One of different people from different
all
places
over.
coming together, being a melting pot, you know, merging together,
Exactly.
right? And that makes it easier to create something like
So when
free
those
healthcare.
when those policies come down,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, granted, this has been going on before my time, so I
Right.
can't say, but so I was born and grew into it, but
Right.
at that time, you know, it's something that we all embody. Like, it's
Yeah.
something that we all are accustomed to.
Yeah.
It's something that we all, you know, moving forward is part of our life, part of what we deal with. So doing something like that right now in the US, for example, it's going to cause a lot of strife, a lot of
Right,
problem,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
However, those people that born or those young children that grow into that, that's going to be their life. That's
Yeah.
going to be normal for them,
Yeah.
you know? So, I mean, look, I understand that that's may not be the specific answer to it, because how many times they ask us, how do we fix America's healthcare in class, right? And we have so many different answers. But with regards to like the COVID and policy, and the podcast started speaking about the government, like, you have to look and see, you know, what are they doing to protect the citizens?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are they doing to protect the health of a human being? How important is that to them? Right? And I'm going to be honest, from outside looking in and also being part of it as
Yeah.
I'm here, like, it could be a lot better. Let's just put it. And with this whole pandemic situation, I don't want to have to speak about, you know, like what they did or what they didn't do, because again, I don't really care to get too much into that political side. You all spoke a lot about that already.
Right.
But with the health side of it, is like, people are dying.
Yeah.
And continuing to die.
Yeah.
Right? For example, I recently got tested. Just yesterday, actually. Got tested for COVID. I'm negative, by the way. Negative, safe, yeah.
Hey.
You know? But as someone who had that lack of insurance at a point, you know, because I'm employed now, so that's okay. But I believe it's only City MD that's offering free COVID testing for like, you don't need anything basically. Like, you just need some form of identification, and you could get a free COVID test. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, it was, you know, a lot more places offering free stuff, completely free. But now I think a lot of them, you need to have insurance. Even if they don't bill you, they will bill the insurance, right? But you know how many people that excludes?
Yeah, that's true.
When you do that, like, and then you have to know your population. Like, we in New York, man. Come on, man. We in New York. You know how many people over here are immigrants, some of them illegally. And also, there are people that just probably don't have health insurance. Like, we know the numbers of Americans without health insurance is extremely high. So are you going to exclude them from, you know? And I'm just saying that there are other places I'm completely sure. But when I was looking in my area for, you know, somewhere that I could get tested, and I was looking at it and I saw like it's only City MD that was really giving you, you know, completely free at this point. And we need that testing still. They keep telling you, you know, they have the lovely signs, get tested, do this, do that, you know, be safe and stuff like that. But you have to make that now completely accessible to the people that are here. Because then they could be the ones spreading the disease. They could be the ones, you know, dying from this thing. So it's a lot. Policy, as we mentioned, governs a lot.
Policy governs a lot, you know. But it takes a village. It takes all of us to work together to combat this disease, right? It takes policy. It takes individual effort. It takes organizations following policies, right? It takes
Right.
communities following policies. It requires all of us to work together to really combat this disease and to combat this illness. So I want to thank you, Dexter. I want to thank you, man, for coming on my show, for giving your wisdom, for giving your insight. I really hope that this podcast was informative to some, right? Allows people to think, right? Allows people to get different perspectives. And I really hope that what you took away from this podcast today is one of just understanding, right? One of our understanding of our process to better health, right? It doesn't just start with your own personal motivation, right? It all works together.
Yeah,
from the
top,
top down,
all the way
from the
down.
government, from the federal government to the local government, to your interpersonal relationships, to your own personal relationships. All of these things affect our health. And if we can all pitch in, if we can all work together, then we might have a healthier world.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And, I'm glad that you are here, speaking about these things. And you mentioned, not every day would have solutions, but I feel like, we have solutions out there. We have to now take it upon ourselves to follow those things.
That's true.
As I say, it takes a village, and we can work together to get to that point. It's a long road. We know this pandemic is still going. We haven't touched on the vaccine situation, but
that juicy.
That one probably might be a little more.
But we have to talk about
we
it.
do.
It's necessary.
We do, right? Because personally, I understand the skepticism and the worry as someone who, not necessarily clinical trials, but as someone who conducted research, both of us, actually, we know the time and effort and the methods necessary to conduct that. And in all honesty, you would love to have a 2-year span of clinical trials before a vaccine comes out. Unfortunately,
things have to be accelerated. But one thing I would say as well is, and thank God I work in the field of public health, but I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues, and he was telling me how we have to remember that COVID-19 is not a completely new virus, right?
No, it's not.
It's a new strand of something that we've seen before.
Yep.
So the research has been done for years.
Definitely. Some of it,
people have been researching SARS for years, right?
Yes.
So what they have to do now is kind of sort of transfer over that data to apply to this new virus that we see today. So even though things are a little bit more quicker,
definitely more accelerated,
there has been work that has already been done as well. And people have to think about that, right? And make a decision based upon that. It's not like they just came up with something, right?
That's true. It's against the wall.
Take it, right? This is something that has been planned and has been in the works for years.
Most definitely. And, one of the things, firstly, we already have, a lot of people that's against vaccines on the whole, right? So to get a new vaccine, would probably be nowhere near that. However, what we all have to realize is that at one point in time, these vaccines that we take regularly was new. So I would say it was true. Like, for example, I had to take, as an international student coming here, I had to take all the vaccines, like basically like just stick me with all this stuff, right? Just to be able to come to study, right? So far less for now, where this is a virus that's killing people at an alarming rate, it's expected that we need a vaccine as soon as possible. Now, would people feel a little scared to go probably the first 2 batches? I understand. I'll put my hands up and be like, look, I get it. You probably don't want to do that. However, I foresee that not that they're going to be forcing vaccines or anything like that, but it's it definitely would be beneficial for people in like the healthcare professional and things like that to be, to take the vaccine. But we'll deal with that when we come to it, although it seems to be coming very close. But it's definitely a interesting way to look at it. But I gotta say, again, thank you. for having me on here. You know, it's my first. I've been listening to the podcast and you know, saying my time will come. My time will come. Don't worry. And you know, I think since this is the first one being like video recorded, you know, I thought it was for my good looks. You know,
but then you just got a cut.
I just say right.
Clean.
Yeah, I was thinking it was for my good looks. Now I'm here with a mask on. You can't even see it, right? But it's been amazing, man, and I enjoy having our conversations, and we're gonna continue to have many more. You know,
of course, this is just the beginning, man. And thank you for coming on, and thank y'all, thank the viewers, thank the listeners for joining us on Berto Be Thinking, and we just want to thank you for thinking it through.